Everyone, I would like to call to order the directors' meeting for the Lincoln City Council for Monday, October 5th, 2020. Sonny, any adjustments to the agenda?
For today's agenda, I will be calling together items 2A through 2D. Those are just setting hearing dates for upcoming liquor applications. I did have Christensen moving those items, but Councilman Shob will be doing that today for him.
Okay.
And then in section 4, under public hearing liquor resolutions, I'll be calling items 4A and 4B together. Items 4C and 4D together. And then under section 6, public hearing ordinances, second reading and related resolutions, items 6D, 6E, and 6F I will be calling together. Items 6G and 6H I will be calling together. And items 6I and 6J I will be calling together, and there possibly will be a motion to suspend rules on those two items to have public hearing and action on today. And resolutions first readings 7A through 7D. Ordinances first readings is 8A through 8D. And pending list is 9A through 9D.
Okay. Any questions for the city clerk?
Sony, did you say you're gonna call 2A, B, C?
Yep, 2A, B, C, and D together.
And all of them, okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Let's see here. Directors, would Health Director, Ms. Lopez, like to come up? Oh, we have the mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Number 4.
Number 4. Oh, I was just skipping right over to Pat. Sorry, Mayor.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for having me. I just want to say thanks again as well to all of you and our community who have been continuing to express support for Investigator Herrera's family. We really appreciate that, and the community outpouring of support has been very meaningful. With your help, we are also continuing to support local businesses who have been impacted by the pandemic, and we're continuing to facilitate and encourage safe dining and celebrating at Lincoln businesses. So thank you for your work on that. The Dine Out Lincoln program is extended through the end of this month. And there's also legislation on your agenda soon to allow SDLs on home football games, to allow restaurants and bars to expand out into the sidewalk or to the street to help increase their capacity without increasing the density, and to allow for more patronage on those game days that are so important to their business. And then the health department is also working on additional recommendations for safe tailgating. I think you'll get familiar with the term home gating soon as they roll out some of those recommendations later this week. They should be available Friday. And then I just want to remind you all that the State of the City virtual event is tomorrow at noon, being sponsored and hosted by Leadership Lincoln. And following that presentation, the recording will be posted through all the city communication channels and Leadership Lincoln's website after the event for anyone to view. And then as part of our One Lincoln initiative, we've had 100 city staff and our directors across all our departments who have just participated in 5 hours of workshops hosted by Inclusive Communities out of Omaha. And those workshops have focused on topics related to identity, bias, inclusion, and equity, and exploring how our views on certain identities shape our perspectives and our reactions. So we're really pleased that that work has been underway. And then lastly, the health department has posted guidelines for safely celebrating Halloween on our website. So if you go to covid19.lincoln.ne.gov, you'll see a pumpkin with a mask. And so yes, Halloween is on, but there are ways to celebrate safely that they are recommending. And it really comes down to the basics that we've been all sharing with our constituents and promoting throughout the pandemic. Keeping your hands washed, keeping a safe distance from others, avoid large gatherings, and wearing masks. Halloween, of course, involves masks anyway, but we still want to encourage people to wear a face covering underneath the Halloween masks, to wash hands and wait to eat candy until folks are home, and knowing that, of course, prepackaged treats are always the safest in any Halloween year, but certainly this year. And then we really are, encouraging and reminding folks that if they're sick or feeling under the weather or have any symptoms, not to be the person who's handing out candy. And just a plug, if you don't know it already, Councilwoman Raybold is famous for giving out movie-sized treats. So if you are going to go somewhere, go to her house.
I'm just trying to figure out how do we do the tube idea? I really like the tube so that it can, be outside the front window and just get the kid their candy.
Because the box is large.
It's large,
You're
yeah.
going to want to cut the tube in half. Get a large PVC,
Oh.
cut it in half so that you have plenty of headroom
Yeah.
to shoot the candy down the tube.
Or the slide, it could be
Yeah.
a slide.
Yeah,
but
the
Thank
slide.
you, Mayor, that we intend to still give out the theater-sized candy.
Definitely an opportunity to be both safe and creative this year.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Oh, well, anything else for the mayor? Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now we can move on to Director Lopez. If you'd like to come up. Good to see you.
Good to be back here. I have a little bit longer report, so just bear with me a little bit. We have now a total of 6,876 cases. We received 46 additional cases yesterday. I think they're compiling the numbers today. Early this morning, we had about 21. The total number of cases reported last week ending October 3rd was 606, which was the second highest total we've had weekly since the initiation of the pandemic. Our previous highest weekly total was a couple of weeks earlier at 694 cases in the week ending 9/12. We have an average of 575 cases a week in the past 5 weeks. In September alone, we've had 2,457 cases. And 36% of all those cases, that represents 36% of all the cases reported in Lancaster County. In the first 4 days of October, we are at 299 cases. I'm just giving you some numbers and information so you can kind of have a general overall feel of what's happening. Since the beginning of last month, we've seen a dramatic and swift increase in positive cases. In the last week of August through the first 10 days of September, we saw a big increase in the number of cases in the 18 to 22 age group, as we've talked about before, which made up about 50% of our cases. Through mitigation with the help of the universities and colleges and social media campaigns, we have been able to reduce that number of cases in the 18 to 22 age group. And now we're seeing increases in the number of cases in older age groups, which is concerning. In our over 65, we are seeing some double digits reported as positive, which is not something we've seen the entire pandemic in probably the last 10 days. In the last 14 days, 40% of our cases are in the 30 to 59 age group, and another 13% of the cases are in the 60 to 79 age group. Case investigations suggest that the new increase in cases are due to family and social gatherings, and surprisingly in small events with 10 people or less. On average, we're seeing close to 40% of the new cases connected to known positive cases, either household members or close family members. 40% or 2,726 of our cases are confirmed to have recovered. And we use that 28-day guideline, 21-day guideline that we go back and have contact with individuals again. We've had 24 deaths in our community. The positivity rate for cases reported last week ending Saturday, this past Saturday, 10/3, was 12.7%. But that was still lower than the week before on 9/26 at 14.2.
Ouch.
We become very concerned when we're approaching that 15% number. Our overall positivity rate for the community is at 8.5%. Our 7-day rolling average of cases in Lancaster County increased from 19 cases a day in August to 86 cases a day as of Saturday. So in just over 6 weeks. Approximately 81,000 people, or about 25% of Lancaster County population, have been tested. We're a little bit behind Omaha. I think they're at 32, so I'm really working hard to get us up, beyond that number. We have testing widely available in our community. So, and overall, it's picked up some from the week ending 9/12. We received the highest week total of 5,249 cases. And on an average, we are receiving 4,000 labs in the last 2 weeks. So our testing turnaround time has increased the week ending 10/3, with an average turnaround time for labs at 2.8 days. So we're monitoring that, and it's on the website if you want to look at it. Now I'm going to talk about schools a little bit, K through 12, first of all. We have identified 219 cases associated with K through 12, and that's both staff and students, and that's all schools, K through 12, in Lancaster County, Lincoln and Lancaster County. And this is beginning at the beginning of the school year, which we count from the second week of August. All these school-related cases are isolated and contacts are quarantined. And as of this time now, we have not been able to identify any cases where there's been spread in the classroom. These cases are all related to events occurring outside of the school setting. We have seen a greater increase in like the last 10 days in the number of cases in the school. We're carefully monitoring that. We have a call with all the school administrators every Friday, and all of them together, and more often in between times we have a weekly call with Lincoln Public Schools as well to discuss what's happening, and that helps us really be extremely responsive and adapt as we need to. And higher education, since the universities and college started in the second week of August, also we've seen 929 cases. But I think we need to keep in mind when we're talking about UNL alone, we probably got over 32,000 individuals that are involved with the university setting. So basically, some of our health districts are about that size. So we kind of have a city within a city with the university alone. We have close relationship with Union College, Southeast, Wesleyan, all of them. We work, Doane, Concordia, we're working closely with them, and we feel we have some really good mitigation standards in place. We had some recent local developments regarding COVID-19 that resulted in increased positive cases. Because of those increases, as we were looking overall once school started, we've directed our higher education institutions to utilize an additional protocol for student teachers, practicum students, practicum internships, and student observations in the schools and with students working in child cares and community learning centers. So what we've done is student teachers are tested on a 2-week rotational basis, and these are students from multiple different colleges and universities coming in, and that process has been working very smoothly. It's been in place since September 8th. We're also working with student practicums. They're doing a lot of Zoom instead of coming into the classroom. Our main goal is to keep our students K through 12 in school and keep our educators and our students safe. The other thing is we did learn too with the community learning centers, we're also in the child cares, those student teachers, those students who are there in higher education are being tested every 14 days, every 2 weeks. We'll continue to monitor that and see if we need to make changes, but this has proved to be a very beneficial process in identifying positive cases before they were known to be positive by the individuals, or because people often think, oh, I just have a little sore throat, or it's my allergies, when in reality, it's really not the case. So it's been an opportunity to reinforce what we keep telling people to do and what I practice myself. And I think it's been very beneficial, especially in our childcare settings where we really need those workers to be available. We also have other mitigation standards so that while students are waiting for their tests, we provided what's called KN95s. They're not N95s that you hear about, but they're similar. They have those available, so those students are there in the centers. We keep our after-school programs open, and we're keeping our childcare open by having that available. The other thing that you've heard about the hospitals, we still have really good capacity in the hospitals. I won't get into a lot of detail on that, but we're still working very closely with them to monitor what's happening. You've all heard that we've had an increased number of cases, which is very concerning. In those situations, and we're working closely with long-term care centers to get people moved back into the long-term care assisted living when it's safe for them to be back, to make sure we have adequate bed availability in the hospitals. Another thing that I wanted to go over, I think you probably read in today's paper, we had the rodeo at Pinnacle Bank Arena. I think it was very successful. We've approved over 69 events in Lancaster County. We've only denied 2 since we started the review. And so it's a simple process. It's online. The application can be filled out and approved by the health department. We often work with these event organizers to do other things safely. We're currently working with Lancaster County Event Center for an upcoming event as well. And just as a reminder, the state-directed health measure requires any event that has over 500 participants at it to have an approved safety plan by the local health department. And all of our health departments are using the same event plan, so as not to create confusion. And when we have an event that's in more than one community, it works well for the event organizers. The goal is for safety. Halloween, the mayor mentioned, I think I was gonna try and show you something, but the mayor mentioned our little mask on our pumpkin. And then we also have the actual guidelines that families can download and follow for that. And finally, one last thing is I just wanted to mention we have influenza vaccine we're starting, and we're at 3 middle schools. Tonight we'll be at Park from 4 to 7. Family members and those close by can come in. Children will receive immunizations that they might need, but we're also offering the flu vaccine there. So this is just the beginning. We'll be at Leffler Middle School on the 7th, and then Goodrich Middle School on the 14th. This information is all on the website. You can access it. So those feeder schools, as we call them, the staff keeps saying, but in other words, the elementary schools that send students to those schools, those parents have also been notified so that they can come to those events. And we'll be sharing additional information with you about other sites in the community. We'll be going to places like Matt Talbot, the Gathering Places, and some other mass immunization thing. We're working with Councilman Shove on another site too as well. I'm sorry, that's the end of my report today.
Thank you. Yes, Councilperson Rabel.
Pat, welcome back, and we're glad you're back. We're really glad. And also congratulations on Woman of the Year award. But with the flu vaccines, are they free
Yes.
to all the students and the parents and the
Yes.
teachers and?
There's no, thank you for asking that. There's no insurance requirement, payment source. The goal is we want to get people vaccinated for flu. And there's still multiple places like CVS and others that are doing that. And I'll be giving you a report from our vaccine committee here shortly on our recommendations. We have started flu surveillance activity with our physicians and offices in the community as well.
Okay. Any other questions? I have one for you, Pat. Before, not going to let you off that easy. Child care providers. They're told, is it a directed health measurement, that if they have any sickness, illness, hay fever, that they have to go get tested and quarantine?
You know, I wouldn't say it that way. I think anybody that has any symptoms should get tested and quarantined, and especially in the childcare setting. We've seen an increase. That was part of what brought this on. Once the schools opened back up and the higher institutions of learning were available, we started seeing more positive cases. If somebody's symptomatic, Councilman McGinnis, we tell them to get tested.
But that's not a directed health measurement,
No.
that if they've got a runny nose, they have to
No, but I can't.
test it and wait
Yeah.
until the test results before they can
Right.
go back?
And most of the test results, like we said, are coming back in like 2.8 days. There's other options we can work with them on. You know, hopefully we'll have some more rapid testing, but I want to stress they really need to get tested if they're having symptoms. I know for a fact that some of them have said, well, I just had a sore throat one day and a runny nose, and they came back to work and they were positive. And then we have somebody else that's positive and another person. It's difficult, it's hard to quarantine, it's hard to be away, but the most important thing is we do things safely so we don't have to shut down a whole center.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, yes.
I think I'd like to follow up on that because Director Lopez, you and I spoke earlier about a similar issue with daycares, and you had said something about college-age students who work at those daycares could be tested on a Friday and get their test back so that by
Right.
Monday morning they would be available again?
Right, and if they're not symptomatic, that's why we got them the KN95, so that they can continue to work and do it safely and follow those protocols. And we provided all that information. And, you know, in addition, I should share with you, we have regular calls with the child care providers and try to give them information and troubleshoot. We had a situation going on where the state patrol was behind on fingerprinting results, and it was really creating a problem hiring because so we've been worked with the governor's office, that's been addressed now, and so we're continuing to try and work and make it easier for them to be open and provide care for our children.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Director.
Thank you.
We had the report from the Planning Department. Boards, before we get into boards and committees and commissions, do we want to ask which directors you would like to see at the end of this? And Benny, would you like to see any directors?
I think not today, thank you.
Okay, Councilperson Washington?
I have seen a lot of folks already today, though I would love to have a word with Chief Blightmeister.
Council?
Johansi Christie, please, Dan Marvin. Thank you.
Okay, and I'd like to see Mr. Christie, and I don't see him here, Brandon, our finance director. Okay, and maybe Liz, if I get a chance.
I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Those who need to know that they should stick around can do so. Boards, committees, commission reports, DLA. I can report on this one. We had a meeting Tuesday, the 22nd. Let's see, financial reports seem to be going pretty well. They're right on budget. There are a few more new board members. I didn't bring their names that we added. A couple, so there's a board welcome. There's a strategic plan committee that's reviewing the strategic plan for an update, but they're still doing their work. State employee update, we will have a new state employee from General Services Administration that will be part of the DLA. And then the fall football promotions and calling the city of Red was a lot of discussions about how Todd and Ogden and Downtown Lincoln Association are working hard on making sure everybody knows that Downtown Lincoln's open. And then we talked about downtown retail promotions also, and how some of the retailers are doing some of their own promotions, but they may tie themselves into some of these SDLs and bring maybe some retail to some of these open areas. And that was a thought that they were going to look into. That if we close off, part of a street and you're a retailer on that street, that you could have your stuff outside also. And people could come through a lot easier that way. Scooter update, still drawing a lot of emotion one way or the other from members of the DLA board, and that was about it. Yes.
Richard, I know you've been very involved in scooters, but
Not the coffee.
not the coffee, but ones that are dropped on the street. A couple of constituents have reached out to me. Where should they call or go on the city website to find that number that they can call and report, dropped scooters on the sidewalk that might become a trip hazard to people? And I know that they have a group that it'll immediately come and pick them up.
Correct.
But
There's an ordinance that says once they're notified, they have X amount of time to come set these up, and I'll let Director Elliott.
Yes, good afternoon. Actually, if they go to the city website and go to the keyword search there on the left side and type in scooters,
Okay.
it'll take it right to the active transportation page.
Okay.
And if they go clear to the bottom, that's where the contact information is.
Terrific, thank you.
Can they do that on Uplink also, do you know?
Yes, we have set up uplinks, so there should be, I don't know if it's just scooters or if it's active transportation. I'd have to double check, but I believe it says scooters.
Okay.
And they can issue that. We are monitoring that and having our active transportation planner, Roberto, monitoring and responding to those concerns and forwarding them on to the vendor if we need to.
Okay, terrific, thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
I guess I have a curious question about scooters. I have been watching folks having a great time on scooters in the last few weeks, and but I have noticed people who obviously aren't 18. I've noticed a lot of people on sidewalks. Only a couple of people in the street, and those who were in the street seem to be riding to the right side, which I certainly appreciate for their own safety. And when I'm passed by one or two on the sidewalk, I just go, oh, all right. But a number of times this last weekend, I saw groups of 6, 7, 8, one group of about 12 or 14 scooters, all en masse on the sidewalk, almost at maximum speed. What are we going to do about this?
It is a challenge, and it was not one that it was expected that we would have this. So we've really been trying to do the educational route. Mm-hmm. We did ask the vendors to post a little bit more prominently on the scooters themselves, and you'll see them either on the handlebars or on the arm of it where it says don't use on the sidewalks. In the rental agreements, they've put it a little bit more prominently in those as well. We've tried to get the words out. I know we're looking at maybe doing some PSA type announcements as well to get it out that way. Because it is a violation of the ordinance, obviously LPD could always get involved, assuming they saw something or they're reported and contacted. We really are trying to go the educational route at first rather than doing anything else. But it is a concern, and it has been brought up by a number of constituents that have responded to us. So we've also put out some signs, because parking has been another issue that's been coming up, especially with the downtown businesses and where to properly park. So we've been adding some extra small signs along the sidewalks. There are some designated parking spots near the university, because that was where we were getting a lot of complaints. So we actually painted on the right-of-way area where they should be parking. We're encouraging people to put those in those spots to stay away from the businesses and be that way. It's something that's going to be an ongoing issue we're going to have to do our best to address. We're trying to get out there. It's all over our social media sites as well, to really try and encourage that. We're also experiencing some things we didn't expect, such as graffiti that you can make with the scooters, which is really kind of interesting. That's been coming up on our public garages, where we actually have videos, and it's not just one group or the same group over and over. It actually is a very different groups at very different times, using the wheels and stuff to draw and write, and people are very creative and they have a lot of pent-up creativity in them. So we're learning, and we're continuing to put out as much information and education as possible. So if you have any suggestions in addition to what we're already doing, please share them with us. We're willing to try anything, and I think as we keep getting the word out, it'll get better, but there are some growing pains with it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Councilperson Ward.
Just a comment, and Liz, Director Elliott, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the age is actually 16, as a reminder, not 18. We raised it from 14 to 16.
It's actually
Correct.
18.
Did we raise it to 18?
We
Oh, I
did.
did that. I thought,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
I thought I raised it from 14 to 16. What do
One-
I know? So no wonder they look so
Okay.
young. But
Yeah, and
So-
one of the specific incident that I'm aware of was a parent paid for 4 or 5 different scooters for a group of 14 or 15-year-olds and running around. So there's supposed to be with the vendors, and we did reach out to the vendors at that point, that they can only do one scooter with that driver's license number rather than multiple scooters. Now they could get one from each vendor, but that still would at least limit the groups. They have assured us that that's been corrected. So if we continue to see that, we'll have to check with the vendors to see what is happening, maybe on the software side of things. But it is really hard, if each one had their parent and they allowed them to do it, it is a little harder to put any sort of blocking mechanism or restrictor software on it to prevent that kind of action. We just encourage parents to make sure they're 18 or older and to participate with these, even though I know the response that we get from many parents is, well, my kids have friends who went out and bought one. Well, okay, but for these ones, we do want to keep it to 18 and over.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
Councilperson Raybold.
Well, the question is for Councilwoman Washington. I know it's all anecdotal, but in your observations of the people that you saw riding both on the sidewalk and on the street, were they wearing helmets? What percentage of those did you think were wearing helmets? And Liz, the question would be to you, and your observations of what you're seeing, what percentage of those that are using the scooters are wearing a helmet? So
0.
0.
Yeah, I might have seen one helmet, maybe
Okay.
this last, it's very rare.
Okay.
I've seen a couple. Most of the pictures and stuff that we've received have been without helmets.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yeah,
That's not good, but
thank you.
I think they're being well received, because I've talked to someone that's working the bird facilities, and they said they're doing very, very well. About 8 times more than what they predicted they would be using. And so they're very happy. So I think they would be very willing to work well with our LTU in trying to get this right. But again, this is a pilot.
Yep.
And for every pilot, we need to figure out what works and what doesn't work going forward. It's gonna start snowing here one of these days, so.
Oh.
No, okay. Councilman Powers, you wanna,
Yeah, the committee just continues to monitor some cases, nothing really major to report.
okay? Councilperson Ward, you would like to talk about the WJPA?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The West Haymarket JPA met last week. Of note was the authorization and approval of the operating budget and capital improvement program for this fiscal year. Also of note was the authorization of Pinnacle Bank Arena to purchase volleyball courts. Keep your fingers crossed that we will be able to play a form of volleyball at PBA. And as Director Lopez noted, PBA did host the rodeo events last weekend, and I did see that article in the paper this morning, so kudos to them for doing that safely. And our next meeting is Thursday, October 29th. And those were the highlights. Thank you very much.
Councilperson Shob or Washington, would you like to talk about the internal liquor?
Have it. Go ahead.
Hi, the Internal Liquor Committee met last Monday before our 5:30 meeting. We spent quite a bit of time talking about the ordinance that'll be before us today and how we can help businesses be successful during football weekends and what we could do. And I have some concerns, I think we all do, balancing the need of businesses, the need of the city versus the dangers of COVID and other issues. But we're going to try that for a couple weeks and watch it closely and review it. We also talked about the bridge, and the number of admissions are down. And one of the things that was related to that is that while the capacity numbers have gone up, allowable numbers for bars and restaurants, the public still hasn't embraced that. They're still being very cautious and still using the curbside more often. So we have some opportunities for success and some opportunities for failure if we're not careful. We have lots of opportunities. What did I miss,
Thank
Councilmember Washington?
I might I want to
Please.
say that with the numbers at the bridge, the numbers are down, which is great. But we also have a lot fewer folks out in bars and things like that. But the SDLs that are on the table this afternoon, one of the issues we discussed were the capacity of the bridge and the fact that they don't have the same capacity because of COVID safety, their safety plan. And so we want to be always cognizant of, at some point, they're going to max out, and then that just puts more pressure on the jail. And they too have a reduced capacity.
Okay. Move on. Councilman Shob, would you like to?
Yes, this will be much quicker. The Performance Audit Committee met on Tuesday of last week. You guys maybe remember way back in the beginning of 2020, we talked about looking at StarTran and the handy van service. We suspended a little bit of that because of COVID-19, but we still did some investigation into the bus system. We are preparing to write our draft report on that, and we've also prepared a list of items we'd like you to look at for our next performance audit for the next year. That will be coming to you very shortly.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions for anybody? We have our consensus correspondence and our meetings, and did everybody get the link for the State of the City?
Hop in.
Kind of a fun one to kind of
Hop
get
in.
through. If you got any problems, let us know or let Angie know. She knows how to get through it. Okay? Seeing nothing else, let's stand adjourned and we can go talk to our few directors.